On the pod today, we have Deinye, CEO and founder of
Bear Skin.
And before we get into all things business, how's your weekend been? How was your weekend? Our listeners will be getting this episode on a Monday, so
I don't know. Like for me, my weekend has been good. Just really chill. Nothing ever happens with me, guys.
Is that because you're doing business stuff on the weekend, or
that's just my personality? I am an inside person.
I'm screaming,
afraid of the outside.
Homebody. But you know what? I want to get into how your personality affects how you run or influences how you run your business. But maybe you can give us a slight intro into what you do, what your business is. I know you also work full time, but you also have a business or two. One business. So tell us a bit about Bear Skin.
So, like you said, I work a full-time 9-to-5 job. I'm a software engineer.
Ooh, women in tech.
But yeah, it's going to be, I guess, like over a year now. Over a year ago, I kind of like stumbled upon handmade soap.
I remember that actually.
Just like online, and for me, for some reason, I always just like assumed that those sort of things, like when you look at the ingredient list on like products like that, you like see these weird ass long names, and it's like, I don't know, it was very intimidating to me. But then I was just wondering, like, let's see, like, I'm sure there's, on the Internet of Things, somebody has had to have made this in their house somewhere. And then I was surprised to find that there's like this huge community of just like people making different types of soap, like from bars to liquid soap with like natural oils that you would see in grocery stores. And so that kind of like really piques my interest. I was looking for a hobby. And then that's how I started. And from there, it went into making, like, I went into making like body butters, body oils, lotions, body scrubs. And it's just kind of grown into, maybe, I don't know if the word is a passion project. Now it's a business, but it's like still a hobby. It's like
you still enjoy doing it.
It's like self-care for me. Making those, like, just like sitting down, like figuring out formulations, researching like ingredients. And for me, it's like self-care. So yeah.
But let's dive back a bit, because before Bear Skin, you had a business, right? So, I mean, I feel like you've always like had this entrepreneurial spirit, like at least from the outside looking. Because you were building something before Bear Skin, and then you sort of stumbled upon this. Like, did you ever feel like, you know, this was your calling, like building your business was something that you were headed towards? Because some people don't actually see themselves as an entrepreneur, and then somehow, somewhere, they become one. Was that the same for you?
I would say, like, a fun fact about me, I probably, like a lot of people, for the longest time did not know what I wanted to do, like, with my life. For me, like, growing up, all I thought about was I had to be doing something to make a living. And that was figuring out what was like the list of all the evils. Basically, like, could I survive waking up every single morning doing this job? That's kind of like what would keep me there. And then the moment, usually it's like 2 years into the job, I'm just like, this is over. And then I check out and look for another job. So I did not have, I didn't have a thing in my head. There's never really been a point where it's like, oh yes, this is what I want to do. I want to run a business. I want to run this. No, it's just, for me, it's figuring out the things I love doing and just doing them once I don't love them anymore, and then finding something else. So yeah, my previous business was like a software startup. And it was called Soluble. Years ago. So the idea behind that was basically to help people manage their personal finances, and have like sort of like an automated reminder to remind people of like upcoming bills, so you never get overdrafts. Figuring out like kind of like learning people's spending habits to help curb like excesses. That was the idea. So we built the app, and then like pitched it to different, went into like some accelerator programs, and that was fun until it stops being fun and checked out. So yeah, and then after that came to Bear.
Were you like, I don't want to say scarred, because like for me, when I start something new, it's fun, I'm building, I've built, and then, I sort of like stop and I'm not doing it anymore. It's not fun anymore. Like I'm typically like scared to start something else because I'm just like, how do I know I won't be bored of this? Like, from now and then now I'm going to put all these resources into it. And then before you know, I'm not saying, I want to do. Did you have that?
The life of an entrepreneur, I guess, or I guess like accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I would say for me, I look at them as like lessons for new stages in my life. So I know that I definitely, there were like tons of mistakes that I made in the first business that I like decided to tread so much more carefully in this one. So for example, we incorporated super quickly.
Oh.
Like that was it. And it was like a whole like figuring out the legal, becoming an LLC.
What's that?
So quickly, limited liability corporation.
Okay. So it's different from Inc.
Yeah. Well, kind of.
Okay.
It's still under the corporation umbrella. You know how there's like sole proprietorship and then there's so LLC, Inc, PLC, those are they have like minimal differences basically between them. But yeah, the idea was my thinking then was have a separate entity from myself.
Yes.
And then like have the business bear like the brunt of whatever was to happen. But then that also came with lots of legal fees, things that I was not ready for. Lots of like documentation and like spending money. And then the thing with that is like taxes as well. Like you have to file taxes for that
corporation,
especially when like you aren't really making any money, you're trying to get on your feet.
Yes.
I feel like I rushed that part so quickly. And then on top of that, so the business had to do with personal finances. So a lot of money had to go into kind of like third party software to connect people's banking to our app.
Oh.
And then a sort of way for us to be able to like use another third party to like move people's money around, things like that.
There's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts, and then a lot of like partnerships with like other companies.
Yes.
Oh my God, so much money.
Are you getting like PTSD even thinking about it?
Got my tax returns that year. Anyways, went into that. So for this go around, I decided to be, or like obviously I was so wary of spending so much money or like going so quickly and going so deep. So like basically to answer your question, I wouldn't say scarred me, but it definitely like gave me a pause, like allowed me to think more before going into, and then that's why this business is sole proprietorship. It's very much linked to my personal finances. It's like my taxes, and then that also helps with like reducing my taxable income.
True.
So that's like pluses.
This is the first time I've heard someone put it from this perspective, because a lot of people are like, oh, incorporate so you can save on taxes, but that only works when your business is up and running, profitable, like you're bringing money in.
Exactly.
You can now offset certain things, but like if you're building from the ground up, you're now doing incorporation.
You have to pay for lawyer fees if you don't know.
Accountants.
Yeah, and then the accountant, it's not like they're really accounting anything because there's no money, but you have to. Bro, but then you have to cover all your bases. It's so much easier for me, from my experience. It's so much easier to start off like sole proprietorship and then build up to the points where you actually need to incorporate.
Yes.
And then do that.
So then you stumbled upon, creating body products, skincare, lotions, scrubs, soaps. And then what made you feel like, because like at first it started as a hobby, because I'm assuming when you did your research, you weren't like, oh, I can make money for this. You were like, oh, let me try this. This sounds like something that will be fun to create, right? So how did you transition from hobby into business? Now you're selling, you have customers, you're shipping.
Yeah, I don't know. That for that part, I didn't really think too much. I started I started making soap first, and then one of the things that I guess is like a side effect is you can't really make small batches of soap. So it's like lots of ingredients, and then you end up wanting just like one bar, but then you probably have to make like 4 or 5, and then like
Oh.
got to a point where it was just things piling up.
So much soap. I remember coming to your house once. I was just like, there's soap everywhere.
Open the door, and it's fragrance if it's smelling.
Yes. I mean, it has a plus side to it.
True,
but
yeah. So yeah, that was the point where I was just like, yeah, and then I gave it to people. People really liked it. I'm like, sure, let's see where this goes. Me, my attitude moving forward has been, let's see let's see how it goes. Until I stop liking it, we'll
keep pushing.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming like it's not like every other business where you could start out small. Like you said, you need to buy the ingredients. And I remember looking at, I think you had sent me one of the websites earlier on, like maybe a couple years ago, and I was like, this thing is expensive. Or like the oils, you have to get the fragrance oils. You have to. First of all, what even goes into making a soap? Because like it's a lot of things.
Yeah. So making soap is actually it's straightforward, but it's one of those things like it's a chemical reaction. So things like safety has to be put into consideration. So the idea of like bare bones, how to make a soap is to combine oils and an alkali. So the alkali that most people use is called sodium hydroxide, which is something, it's like a very, very strong it's like a very strong component that breaks things down. Like when it's used by itself, it can help. Like basically, if you go to a hardware store, you would find sodium hydroxide.
Don't they use that for dead bodies?
To help clog like drainages.
Oh, okay.
Things like that.
I was like,
I don't know. But yeah, that's the idea. And then bare bones, that's what it is. You end up like, depending on the sort of like, I guess, character that you want the soap to have. You can add different fragrances, different colors, make different like swirl patterns and designs. But then like even in the oils and like butters, like shea butter, mango seed butter, avocado oil, coconut oils, like they have
grapeseed. I do be knowing these things.
They have different components that that impact the end product of the soap. So, for example, coconut oil, they would like advise you to use like less than like around 30% because it's a very harsh ingredient. Like it's very, very cleansing. So it lifts up oils and grime and everything from your skin. But if it's used in high concentrations, like it could also like strip your natural oils like off your skin. Yeah.
So is that why people say you should use coconut oil to take your makeup off?
Coconut oil is like it's very, very cleansing. But like used by itself, you would, if you were going to use like a 60-70% soap, coconut oil soap, that would be used to like wash clothes or wash dishes, not for the skin.
Oh, okay.
But like something, for example, like a shea butter is a conditioning agent, so it makes like your skin. It's a butter that has like a lot of it's called like monosaccharides.
Class is in session, guys. Like,
so it's like things that it doesn't absorb super quickly into your skin and like ends up like leaving like sort of like smooth, silky feeling. That's why it's called conditioning. But like it doesn't bubble the way like you would expect soap to bubble. Lather, yeah, exactly. Okay. Coconut oil lathers a lot. Yeah. Castor oil also. Castor oil is an interesting one because it lathers a lot, but it also doesn't strip like your skin of its natural goodness. So things like all the different oils like have to be put into consideration when making soap. So like that's the idea. So basically it's like oils, you melt all of those down, mix it into like a lye solution. So lye and water, mix it together. It's an exothermic reaction, which means like it generates heat.
I feel like I'm in chemistry class right now.
Yo,
did you have to learn all of this when you started the business, or did you know it before?
I had to learn everything. So my background is geology, earth sciences. So that's like rocks.
Okay.
I had to attend like probably like 2 first-year chemistry classes, but that was it. It was going into this that I basically learned. I learned so much, but it's been fun.
It's funny you say that because like you're saying all these things and my brain is like, okay, where is like, and
I didn't know.
and to be honest, when you look at soap, at least for me, I don't think about, okay, is there 30% coconut oil? Like, I'm just like, okay, this soap smells great, you know, like it feels good on my skin. But like the things that goes into actually creating that soap and like the science behind it, it's like,
it's so fascinating to me.
I'm fascinated, even though I don't understand properly, but I'm so fascinated. And it's like, so you had to learn all of this as you were like building the business. At any point did you feel like, okay, like, you know, this is a bit like too much? Yeah.
So starting off, I did not start making lotions, so like water-based products, because the very first like sort of research deep dive I did into it was so many things. It's basically the idea of mixing water and oil is, you know how water and oil separate,
yeah.
It has to be a ton component to bring them together. For me, that was, for some reason, that was just a lot.
I can relate
because it's like you have to figure out the concentration of that, like it's called emulsifier. So like the compound that binds water and oil, you have to figure out the concentration of that depending on how much water and oil you're going to use, so things don't separate in people's houses.
Yes.
For
Imagine
me,
shipping out soap and then before you get
water is here. I'm just like, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry. Like, okay.
So I'm just like stay clear of that. One thing about me is like it was in the back of my mind, but then it was like fear basically kept me from it until for me, knowledge and knowing things makes me feel comfortable. That's like that's my comfort zone. So I spend so much time just like reading, watching videos of like chemists and people like talking about their own mistakes, learning how to make. Because the first time I made lotion, I also fucked it up. I don't know if I can say here.
No, you can't.
So that was like.
Did that make you doubt yourself? Like, okay.
Yeah, because it was actually funny because the thing separated and I kept mixing it. The thing would come back together and go and start separating.
By the time you look back, they are separated.
I'm like, bro, guys, what's going on? And then I was able to troubleshoot it and I figured out why it was separated. And that breakthrough for me boosted my
confidence.
Exactly. In like figuring out like, and hearing people talk about their mistakes and like them troubleshooting and figuring out like why, always try, like chemistry is literally like experiment after experiment, to like tweaking one thing, seeing the results. So yeah, like the latest lotions that I have like concocted,
created,
that's coming out soon.
Yeah, I tried it and it's like, funny enough, you know what happened today? My mom was like trying to lotion her hand. I'm like, actually, I just got this like lotion as like, because it was the souvenir I got from the wedding, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you want to try? And she was like, oh my God, this smells so good. And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, oh my God. Like, and she's like, genuinely, because my mom is someone like, she pays close attention to her skin and like, she always wants to stay hydrated. So she's like, wow, like my skin. And then like, even after a while, she's like, my skin is still like so soft. And I'm like,
not high praise.
That's that bear. That's that bear skin. Like,
coming out at some point this year when I can figure my life out.
So, I mean, you've had to build publicly because, like, from what you're saying is your first batch of products that you sold are not the same as the ones you're planning to release this year.
Yeah.
How is that for you? Because for some people, they're like, oh, consistency is key. I don't want to change my formula. I had to, like, test, figure out this formula before, and then I never, deviate from that. But for you, you've taken a different approach where it's like, listen, I'm going to keep getting better, and you guys are going to keep getting better products from me,
Yeah.
Did you decide that by yourself, or was that sort of just...
I think, let me see, that was for sure a consideration for me. Like when the very first launch that I did was pretty close to when I started making products. And that was another thing I learned from my previous company was then I was trying to wait as long as possible, like trying to refine before releasing anything. But something that I've come to realize is and I would also say it's lucky because I am not big enough for like so
You're
many
big, oh.
people. Not yet. For like so many people to like realize the
Okay, I get what you're
difference and the
saying.
change. Yeah. So I think me right now, I'm using this like I guess a growing season as an opportunity to quickly like iterate and change and like get better as quickly as I possibly can. So for me, I'm not trying to wait. It was a conscious decision for me not to wait until I
Till
figure
perfection.
Yeah. Even like the rebrand that we're doing now, it's like it's a whole new.
I mean, you're going to talk about the rebrand. We're going to talk about that because, like, it's not every day that you see people saying, "Okay, you know what? I've been this before, but now I'm going to be this because of X, Y, Z." But before we get there, I remember when you started and you were taking your own like product for pictures. You were doing like everything by yourself, and then you decided, you know what? I'm going to focus on product creation. Then you said, I'm out of here. Like, this is not my calling. I'm just like, I mean, I can do photography, but like, I'd rather focus on creating the products themselves. How a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, I guess you're fortunate because like your husband is into photography and, you know, he was glad to take that up. I don't know if glad is the word, but he was able. He was able to pick that up and say, you know what, leave this to me. And you had all that help, right? But for you, like letting go is something I even struggle with as an entrepreneur because like, even if I know this person might be good at this, it's just like, I'm good at it. You know? I know what I want.
You know, exactly. You have the picture in your head. That's for sure. Like me, I'm a super, super duper type A person where anything that is, it's actually crazy because anything that is going to be even remotely associated with me has to be like top tier. Like I have to like it and I have to be okay with it. That was a thing that I had to consciously like decide to let go of. Even though it's still a struggle for me because like I'll see some things I'm like, no, can we change this please? This is actually not what I had in mind. But yeah, I'm definitely aware of my luck, I guess, and my privilege of having been married to somebody that is also like when he's into his hobbies, he like goes all out.
Oh, wow.
So the camera gear, the lighting, flash, everything is there. I'm just like.
I woke up one day and lemon happened. I'm just like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I picked up a new hobby. I'm watching YouTube videos.
He's like, I'm a photographer now.
I'm just like, okay, you're a tech bro. Like, why are you having an identity crisis right now? Like, but it's so great because like when Lemon is into something, you can't tell him anything.
And then he goes like he deep dives so far, like worse than me, I think, into that like special
He's
interest.
Obsessed, yeah.
Yeah. And so he also like is similar to me in that like his work, he looks at his work with like a critical eye and he looks at like the very, very fine details. So that makes me feel like safe, I guess, in like safe enough to put my product photography in his hands with some directions.
With some lemon, I don't like that. Like, can we change that? Like, This podcast is brought to you by Soapblocked, an online directory of Black-owned businesses in Canada. We also work with entrepreneurs to improve their digital presence with custom-made websites, social media advertising, and product photography. To learn more about Soapplug or to list your Black-owned business for free, visit www.soapplug.com. Do you feel like, because you don't see a lot of people like husband and wives working together on one business, do you feel like that has affected the dynamics in your relationship, in your marriage? Like, how do you feel like your business or your marriage influences your business and vice versa?
Well, right now, I don't know if he's involved enough for it to, like for us to consider ourselves as working together. It's almost like just like one-offs of, level two, I need pictures taken for this. Can you come and take pictures? And he does that. And it's basically, sometimes he edits. I'm still like trying to find a proper like editor because
he's swamped. His books are busy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think, maybe when things get like a lot busier or like when things start uptaking, I don't know. and I'm happy for that. I'm thankful that it's not an issue. It's not a thing that has come up.
Yes.
So yeah.
So let's talk about this rebrand. So for those that are listening and don't have context, you launched your business as Strip Bear, the Strip Bear soap company. Yes. And I think that's when you were just doing soap. And then, at some point you were like, actually, I want to do scrubs. I want to do body butters and yogurts and lotions and all of that stuff. Why did you now decide that actually, no,
Scrap the whole thing.
let's just from the ground up,
When I started this Strip Bear soap company, it was, the plan was to just make soap. I mean, I think I was okay having the Strip Bear soap company be the name, even with butters and scrubs. It would just be we make soap and this extra thing.
Yes.
But I started to I was still struggling with the brand, the brand identity. At that point, I was very much into the luxury but minimal lifestyle. So that's kind of the direction I had pushed the Strip Bear soap company in. But then I started to dislike it because I had moved past that phase in my life. I didn't want to make. Okay, let me not say I moved past that phase in my life because I'm still.
Because you're still in Lux, girl. So I'm like, move.
No, we're not going anywhere. But so rather, I would say I didn't want to make. I wanted to make products for the everyday person. I wanted to make good skin accessible and marketing the brand as a luxury sort of separatist kind of idea. It doesn't gel well with even my own personality and how I want to position the brand. So that kind of got me thinking. I went through a whole brand.
You did a test or something, and yes,
I went a whole rebrand process, thinking about from what the colors to what the fonts, to types of pictures that we take, those elements. How do they communicate that this brand is an approachable one? And it's one that is outspoken, but also for you, basically. That's where it started from. And yeah, I also wanted to bring up a brand that is not going to change in the future, depending on how my own
your direction of the business and your vision for what you're building, right?
Yeah.
I really love that because you touched on something that a lot of entrepreneurs, at least I also didn't think about when I was starting my business. What do I want people to think about when they hear of my brand? I mean, I sort of thought about it with the name. I was like, we're connecting people to businesses, so let them think of us as their plug, and at the time I remember even designing my logo just based on that thought without even doing research. Is this name even available? Does this brand even make sense? What are our colors? Do they even I don't really think I thought about that. Maybe Ben did because he was doing the design and development, but a lot of people just think, okay, let me just launch my business. I have the products. I can make soap. I have websites.
Yeah.
Let me just name it anything. And then they don't really think about the marketing, the brand identity. How do you want people to feel when they're on your website, when they see your products?
When they open, they buy a product and they get the box and open it.
Yes.
What is that? What sort of feelings you want to evoke? Yeah. And I would say it's I was gonna say it's never too late to rebrand, but it probably is. Yeah.
You think?
I would say it's
a lot of work, or
it's a lot of work, but then it's I think you're safer rebranding the smaller you are. So now I'm such a strong believer in try so many things, try as many things as possible when before you blow. Do all the things in when I was in my startup era. When I was in my startup era, something that the what's the word?
Incubator.
Those like something like the incubators
Angel investors.
always said was fail fast.
Mm.
So get all like failures for me is like a learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It can be embarrassing. It can feel like it feels awful.
100%.
But then it would be a waste if you don't learn anything from it, because then it will happen again. So for me, it's like just try as many things as possible, and figure out what sticks as quickly as you can, and then go from there. As opposed to like just like staying where you are.
Yes.
And
yes.
like knowing that something needs to change, and they're like, yeah, that's...
I always say this though. For me, I'd rather fail than not try. Like it's painful. Like with Soul Plug, I failed a lot of times. Like even like when we started our merch, like I remember starting that thinking, okay, like, you know, our directory is free, but like if we sell some merch that like promotes buying black, you know, black entrepreneurship, that's where we would like blow, and then we'll get all this money, and we would like, I had this whole plan. I was like, yeah, I'm going to drop ship. Like, I don't need any upfront costs. You know, I had a whole vision, right?
Yeah.
And quickly realized that this thing is actually not, it's costing me more to run this business than it is to like, and for a long time, I was just like, it will soon blow. Let's just keep putting more money, right? But I quickly realized, I'm like, it's not, like we can do limited merch, but like to have like a merch business, the profit margins were so slim, like little to nothing.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's almost like running a restaurant.
Yes.
It's unfortunate because it's like the not lucky few, but it's the few that end up making a lot of money. That like they're the ones that get projected the most. But the remaining 99% of people. So that's like a thing for me with social media. Like when I see other people's businesses and I see like all the high numbers, and it's like,
we're going there.
See what they do. And it's also nice because in that sea of like people showing like only their highlights, there are some people that like will show you
the lows.
Yeah, there's sometimes that we make a lot. There's sometimes that we only have 7 orders in a day. So it's like, don't believe everything type of thing. But it's also like, for me, it's, I don't know, thinking critically, seeing like where you are, seeing where you want to go, and then like figuring out how your middle is going to where you are is going to lead you to where you want to be. Because previously, like the Shrift Vessel company wasn't going to lead me to like, I don't know, like lasting happiness.
Yeah.
And because I could not stand behind the brand. I could not like say it with my chest. And if I had let it just keep going, oh, this is what is in. That was actually what was in, like luxury self-care.
Yes.
What was in.
Yes.
And it's like, if this is, I could not, I know that I won't be able to sustain that like pretense of,
luxury feeling, that luxury skin.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I feel like you touched on like comparison, like looking at other people's successes and looking at where you're at, and like just being like, like what's going on? Like, you know, and I feel like it's very common around people that don't have a supportive community. And I feel like there was a time, I remember when I got the idea to like launch Soul Plug, and it was like, okay, I obviously told my brothers. They were like, yeah, sure, you know, it sounds good. Like, sure, we'll help you out. It will help you set up. And I remember telling some friends, and they were like, are you sure about this thing? Like, you know, I've seen people try to do this thing, or like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And then I eventually started, and then we weren't moving as quickly as I thought. In fact, the day before we launched, I had like reached out to some people I know, like business owners, to be like, hey, I'm launching this directory. You can list your business on here for free. And then they were just like, okay, cool. You know, and I was like, So I was a bit taken aback. And then in the same period, other similar platforms were popping up, and they were just skyrocketing, and they were just going, and they were just signing up. I'm just like, and they were even charging people. Their platform wasn't free. I was not looking at myself. I remember telling them, I'm like, I don't think this thing is clicking, or, you know, it's not too late to just shut down. We failed. We've tried and we failed, you know? And that comparison was really like stealing my joy at the time because I couldn't enjoy building. I couldn't enjoy the small. I was just like, if this thing doesn't reach 100 businesses by the time I wake up, we are failed. Let's just close down. And then it was just like, why don't you just give it time?
Yeah.
You know, like if you reach 100 businesses, you're still going to spend the amount of money you're spending right now if it's true businesses. So you're not losing anything.
Yeah.
Just chill. And I just remember saying, I just give it, like, I was just yelling and I was just like, you don't understand. You're not seeing what other people are doing with their platforms, right? And at some point, I and it's funny to say, and honestly, I'm not throwing any shade, but some of those platforms started disappearing.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
that's what happens with waves.
You know, they just started disappearing. The hype was gone. Nobody, I was just like, oh, wait, it's only us. So, I mean, not technically only us, but like,
they start to quiet down.
It started quieting down. And then I realized that like all the work I'd been putting in started like slowly trickling. I mean, I'm not saying I'm where I want to be, but like I felt more fulfilled.
Can see progress.
I could see progress, and I was just like, okay, like these things you just have to give it time, or like, you know, and just build.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's exactly that. It's, for me, my comparison really is
the thief of joy.
It really is.
Yeah.
So honestly, I find myself, I watch like other business owner vlogs on YouTube, and then I see, like, for me, I don't know, packing orders for some reason is therapeutic to me.
You're the first person I've heard saying this.
Like, my YouTube is for people that just like watching business owners like pack people's orders. It's like, oh yeah, this is Charlotte's order from New York, and then it's like, oh, this is what she got. For me, it's like, it makes me feel happy thinking about how this is where I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to be somehow. And then for me, like the lens and the filter that I look at these things through is, and obviously it's not easy. It's like, if you don't have a handle on it, it's very easy to like slip into the comparison mode. But for me, the filter that I have is, there was a time when nobody knew who this person was. And then when people talk about how, they've been 4 years into this, they've been 5 years into this, and then they have like 50,000 followers on Instagram, they have a YouTube channel, they have like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's like, and then those people, I hear stories about how they also like were in a 9 to 5. Some of them like cut off immediately and started it. Some of them like, kind of like was like me and blended it two in. So me, I think about how the lens I look at it through is, there is no such thing as an overnight success. It takes years. And for me, I'm just looking at it through, these people have put in the work, and they've been consistent enough in this, where like, here I am in 2023, looking at them, thinking about how in 2022 I started this business, and look at where I am right now compared to where I was then. It's like, when I hear people talk about how, like, talking to you about wanting like more products on the website, like, because we've not had, and then it's mind, even if it's like just one person, still
it's mind blowing.
Like, that somebody from Toronto is looking at the website.
They literally accost me. They're like, Nina, we need. I'm like, first of all, hello. Yeah.
So it's like those individual things and those like small victories and little successes. When I get like somebody's email, somebody went out of their way to email me because like they were waiting for something on the website, and that's just like, like, I'm doing something right.
Yes, you are. You absolutely are. And like, if you don't know about For Bare Skin, like, you need it. Like, layering like your fragrances from the shower is like a life hack that I never knew I needed until I started using your body products. Like, when I use my lavender, I use the cream, and then I put my perfume on it, and then I'm scenting great the whole day, and everybody's just like, what's that? I'm like, you know, I think you're actually doing an amazing thing. And before you go, like, what is something that you feel like, if somebody wanted to start like a skincare business, what is one piece of advice that you give to them based on your experience building?
One piece of advice is, it's not that serious.
That sounds cliche, but it's true.
Like, to be honest, it's not that serious. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. I was so scared to make mistakes. well, like, because you're selling things to people.
Yes.
And for me, it's so important that the hard-earned money that people, like, somebody giving me their money in exchange of something that I've made is so important to me. And it's like, you have, like, to me, it's, I have to give you the best experience possible.
Yes.
Because you could use this money for something else. I would say, like, for somebody, it's very easy to, like, want to have everything be perfect, not make any mistakes. But then, like,
you make mistakes.
There is no way you would learn without making mistakes. So it's okay. It's okay to fail.
Also, there's no way to build a business without making mistakes. Have you built a business before?
And it's like there's 7 million people in this world.
Yeah.
It's okay for, like, 1,000 people to, like, get the brunt of your initial.
But that doesn't mean your customer service should be horrible.
Yeah.
You know, but it's okay to make mistakes as you start building your business and you keep going. Like,
as long as you learn from it.
Yes. Honestly, this has been such a great conversation. Like, just like, I didn't know there was so much chemistry that went into, like, the products we were using. Where can people find you? Where can people find For Bear?
For Bear, guys. So Instagram, TikTok. On our website is stripbearsoap.com. It's going to be forbearsoap.com
very soon.
But, like, follow us on Instagram. You'll find all the updates.
Yes, and the link will be below in the description box. Thank you so much for coming on the pod today.
It's been a great conversation,
and we'll see you next Monday, guys.